Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the weekly show here, Weekly Hero, where all we do is we go back and recap the biggest stories in the world of the comic book movies and, of course, comic book TV shows. Going to talk a little bit about Crisis on Earth X today and a whole bunch of other things. And I'm so glad you guys have decided to join me here today for this installment. And hopefully I won't have the same instance that happened this morning on the John Campea show when YouTube just decided to disconnect me, but whatever. Hopefully that won't happen today. So here's how today's show is going to go, guys. I've got several items from this past week's movie news in the world of comic book movies that I'm going to go over. Once I go through those, I'm then going to save some time at the end of the show to take your live questions. And if you're watching live, how do you get a question on? Simple. Just tweet me anytime at John Campea. Now, probably best to wait until closer to the end of the show or else I might miss your tweet. But once we get closer to the end of the show and we get close to that segment, you guys just tweet me at John Campea and I will get through just as many tweets as I can. And maybe you will see your tweet, your thought, your opinion, your question pop up here on the bottom of the screen. So, with that out of the way, let's get started with this. Okay, so the first thing in news, this is actually new. This came out today. Margot Robbie was recently being interviewed, and she was asked about some stuff regarding DC and things like that. And she was asked about Harley Quinn, to which she said that she is working on a separate spin-off for Harley. A separate spin-off for Harley. She went on to say this. She goes, yeah, I've been working on it for 2 years now. I've been working on a separate spin-off for Harley for a while now. It's coming along. Okay. So, we have, and the reason that this is interesting is because she decided to emphasize those words, separate spin-off for Harley. A separate spin-off for Harley. This means, if we're taking her at face value, that we have no less than 4 films coming with Harley Quinn. We've got Suicide Squad 2, if that ever happens. We've got Gotham City Sirens, if that ever happens. We've got that one that both she and Jared Leto confirmed, the Joker and Harley Quinn movie. And now we've got this other one, a separate Harley Quinn spinoff film for Margot Robbie. All based around one character from a movie that was poorly received critically and divisive amongst fans. Now granted, she was one of the best parts of that movie, no doubt about it. But it was not a well-received movie by either audience or fans. Or critics, I should say. And they've got no less than 4 different films with her coming. Now, I have no doubt we're not going to see all 4 of them. But the last official word out of any of these things, we heard Leto confirm that they are looking at developing a Joker Harley Quinn one. Now we've got Margot Robbie herself saying that they're working on a Harley one. We've heard official sources saying, yep, they're moving ahead with Suicide Squad 2. And we've heard official sources saying, no, we're still doing Gotham City Sirens. Now, I'm sure behind the scenes, maybe 1 or 2 of those have fallen by the wayside. But here's the point to me that really just makes me throw my hands in the air and go, I fucking give up. I give up. Well, I don't really give up, but I feel like giving up. I feel like giving up because here's the frustrating thing. And let me lay the groundwork for why this is frustrating to me, okay? For the past year, I have been defending DC and Warner Brothers in particular. Whenever these questions come up, I go, guys, look, Warner Brothers has very smart people over there. They're making some good moves. They're doing some course correction. They're taking a step back and they're taking a breath. And they got smart guys over there and they're going to pull this thing through. For a year, I've been saying that. And don't you love it when you stick up for somebody and then they make you look like an ass? Because that's what Warner Brothers is doing. Now, this is also partially connected to another story we're going to talk about here in a minute. But remember, just the other day, that news story came out in The Wrap, who has a source inside Warner Brothers, that was talking about how completely directionless Warner Brothers is with their DC properties right now. All right? They were infighting within Warner Brothers itself, couldn't even decide about whether or not to fire Zack Snyder before they started Justice League. They were completely divided on that. Then once they do start Justice League, they fight amongst themselves as to which direction the Justice League movie should go after they already started shooting. Then they go, okay, no, let's go with more to the Joss Whedon way. And fine, then they go the Joss Whedon way. Zack's getting frustrated. Then the tragedy happened with Zack and he had to step away. And then it's like, okay, well, we got 6 months now to make all these changes. And according to the report, Tsujihara said, no, I don't get my bonus if we put the movie into 2018. Keep it where it is. So we've got Warner Brothers leadership undermining the DCEU from within. We've got a completely divided leadership over at Warner Brothers, having no idea which way is east and which way is west, which way is my mouth and which way is my ass. They have no idea what's going on. In the midst of all of that, the Titanic is sinking. We got, in terms of opening weekend box office, Batman vs. Superman at 166. It goes down for Suicide Squad to 133. It goes down even more for Wonder Woman at 103. It goes down even more for Justice League. Justice League, for fuck's sakes, opens at $94 million. And in the midst of all that, when Rome is burning, I said that this morning, Rome is burning and Caesar plays his fiddle. As Rome is burning and everything is falling to fuck, what are they doing? They're talking 4 Harley Quinn movies, and they're talking this movie, and 16 movies over here, and a Batman trilogy there, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Meanwhile, the Titanic's sinking, and the band plays on as the Titanic sinks. That's the only impression I get here. Are you fucking kidding me? Harley Quinn. 4. We can't get Man of Steel 2, but we can get 4 spin-off Harley Quinn films. Warner Brothers, trust us. And that just seems to be the state of things over them. Like, I swear to God, guys, when I first read that comment from Margot Robbie, and I love Margot Robbie. She is a dynamic talent. She is an incredibly gifted performer, and I really like her performances as Harley Quinn very much. But in context of the big picture, I read that quote from her, and all I could do, I'm not kidding, guys, I'm sitting on my couch with my laptop, and I literally go, oh, and I bury my face in my hands and I'm going, what the hell? What the hell? Like, these guys, like, I've been saying for a year, hey, don't just trust the Warner Brothers guys. They're smart. They're gonna right this ship. They're gonna make this thing happen. Everything's gonna be fine. And then we find out the leadership there is undermining their own films. They're completely divided amongst themselves. They don't know which way they're going whatsoever. So you got 18 different guys going, yeah, I'll greenlight a movie, or I'll put a movie into development, I'll put another movie in development. They got like 50,000 pieces going on, and nobody knows what the frickin' direction is they're supposed to be going. All while the Titanic sinks and Justice League opens to $94 million. That's the state of things over at Warner Brothers right now. And I got to admit, look, a lot of my perception changed when that report from The Wrap came out. Because the report from The Wrap really did ring true. I mean, obviously, everything that's in that report, and we don't know for certain that everything in there is fact. Let's preface that by saying that, okay? But as I'm reading, I'm like, this makes sense. Like, everything that's in that report rings completely true. Because, yep, that would explain this, and that point in the story would explain that. And yeah, holy crap, this thing is a bigger mess than we all thought. Which only emphasizes my belief once again, Warner Brothers needs to completely clean house, fire everybody. Fire everybody. Everybody who's above, like, say, a junior vice president, anybody above that, fire them. The CEO's got to go. The president's got to go. The CFO's got to go. The CCO's got to go. The COO's got to go. They all got to go. They got to clean house, get rid of the corruption that's in there, get rid of the people who are undermining their own cinematic universe just for the sake of their own bonuses. And I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. This is an issue that really, really bothers me. So I'm sorry if I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to Harley Quinn here for a second. This just because, and this is nothing against Margot Robbie or the character of Harley Quinn at all. But it just goes to show that while this whole state of Warner Brothers DC slate is in total chaos, this other thing with Harley Quinn comes up, it just emphasizes that point, that these guys do not know which way they're going. And for me as a fan, for me as somebody who has given positive reviews to every DCU film, as somebody who walks into every DC film hoping for the best and wanting to believe, for somebody like me who's been defending the brain trust at Warner Brothers for over a year, saying, these guys are smart guys, these guys are going to right this ship, these guys are going to do this, and then they crap in my mouth and make me look like an idiot. And by the way, I do a good enough job making myself look like an idiot. I hate it when other people help me look like an idiot, and Warner Brothers leadership helped me look like an idiot in there, because I've been defending these guys, and meanwhile, they've been undermining their own DCEU, and they're pulling stuff like this, just proven once and for all, they are completely rudderless, they are completely directionless, directionless. They have no idea which way they're going. They have no true North Star, and they are sinking the ship while the band plays on the deck. And that's what we got, ladies and gentlemen. That's the state of Warner Brothers as far as their DCEU goes. That's the state of the DCEU. I don't want to say it. I don't like it. It bothers me having to say it. It contradicts a whole ton of shit I've been saying all year, that they're going to write this thing. Don't you worry. Justice League's going to be aces. It's going to make $1 billion. It's going to be the #1 comic book movie of the year. Yep, that was me. That was me. How wrong could I be? How wrong could I be? Hey, listen, guys, I often miss these things, but somebody put in a super chat over here, and this super chat just came to us from Aussie Nerd. And Aussie Nerd wrote, will Marvel and Star Wars have to put out this many bad movies for their bubbles to burst as well? Running the superhero and Star Wars films for years. I mean, well, that's the advantage that Star Wars and that Marvel has. Like, see, Star Wars started off, and by the way, thank you again, Aussie Nerd, for that super message there, for the super chat, I should say. That's the advantage that Star Wars and Marvel has. See, Star Wars, yeah, the prequels came out and they sucked, but they were building on a foundation of 3 solid films beloved for generations. So you can recover when you have that kind of a foundation. Marvel has a long history of success. So if they come out with a couple of crappers, like, you know, if they come out with the odd Iron Man 2, the odd Inhumans, the odd Iron Fist, they can come out with those and they're okay because they've already built a solid foundation. What's the foundation of the DCEU? Man of Steel, which is in my top 10 favorite comic book films of all time, but I'm not sticking my head in the sand. The reality is that was incredibly divisive amongst fans and critics. Fans and critics are completely divided on that movie. Justice League, which the critics hated and the audience was really divided on. Suicide Squad, which again the critics did not like and the audience was divided on. Wonder Woman's your one big success. There's Wonder Woman. And now you got Justice League. The thing is, you don't have that foundation. DCEU has not built that foundation, that solid foundation of success, where if they hit a couple of bumps in the road, they can recover from that. Something like Star Wars has a solid foundation. Things like Marvel have a solid foundation. DCEU has not built that foundation. So now, because here's the thing, when a crapper like Inhumans comes along, well, you look back at Marvel and you see Captain America Civil War, and you see Avengers, and you see Doctor Strange, and you see Thor Ragnarok, and you see whatever, and you get all this solid stuff. When you hit a Justice League road bump, what have you got to look back on? Nothing. You got to look back on a divisive Man of Steel, a divisive to hated Batman vs. Superman, a divisive to hated Suicide Squad, and one really good one in Wonder Woman that the critics and fans and box office all liked. That's not enough. And that's why they're in kind of the funk that they're in right now. Anyway, thanks a lot for the super chat. I appreciate that. All right, let's move on now to the next thing. And this next thing is a little bit more positive thing to talk about. And that's, oh my goodness, the Avengers trailer dropped. Avengers Infinity War trailer finally dropped. Something that some fans thought was going to come months ago. It finally dropped now. And everybody lost their collective minds. No getting around it. This trailer was spectacular. And it has set the record for the most viewed trailer in the first 24 hours in history, breaking its record of 197 million views in the first 24 hours. Avengers Infinity War comes in at 230 million views in the first 24 hours. Crazy success. Crazy success. Somebody wrote in the comments section, actually, they left a little joke. They said, the Avengers Infinity War trailer has made more money on YouTube's AdSense than Justice League has made at the box office. And while that is not entirely true, it is kind of funny that they put it that way. Fantastic trailer. You know what? The thing I love about the trailer, it worked on so many levels because, number one, it did what a lot of trailers are forgetting to do. Tell the audience what the movie is basically about. Remember, that was one of my big complaints about Blade Runner 2049. Well, but one of the big reasons why I believe Blade Runner 2049 failed at the box office was because if you look at all their trailers, not one of them even give you a hint as to what the movie's about. It's not even one. I gave the analogy that that's like going to Best Buy and seeing a blank box on the shelf and it says 20 bucks. You got to pay 20 bucks for it. And then asking a salesman, hey, what's in that box? Oh, we can't tell you that. That's a surprise. Just go ahead and buy the box. No. And that's what a lot of people did with Infinity War. But when you look at this first trailer for Infinity War, that's what you get. They give you a basic idea without giving away big spoilers, without going into too many details. They give you the basic idea of this is what the movie's about. And the really brilliant thing about this trailer to me was that it played like a movie. It had 3 acts. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning, kind of the setup, the middle, the fleshing it out, and the end with all the money shots. I mean, so to me, it was an outstanding trailer, beautifully put together. Thanos looks 1,000 times better than Steppenwolf. You know, and somebody misunderstood me when I said that. Because I mentioned before that Thanos looks 100 times better than Steppenwolf did in Justice League. And they sent me a side-by-side image, a still image. And they both look really good. And I said, no, you misunderstand. Because like I said in my review of Justice League, the model of Steppenwolf looks great. But once you see him animated and talking and nothing else in his face is moving but his mouth, blah, blah, blah. That's not how we talk. When people talk, their cheeks move, their eyebrows move, their eyelids move, the muscles in their face contort, all that kind of stuff when we talk, right? But not stop him, blah, 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 blah. Like, so to me, it wasn't the model of Thanos looks 10 times better than Steppenwolf, because the model of Steppenwolf does look really good. It's just that when you see them actually animated and coming to life, the Thanos one has life. Another super chat was put in by Pensive Ruin. No comment, but thank you very much, Pensive Ruin. I appreciate that. And Comic Court is also put in a super chat saying Thanos looks amazing, to be honest. Absolutely, he does. And it's not just, and this is the key, it's not just the still model. The still model of Steppenwolf looks great. It's when they're moving and in action. And as Thanos is walking through that portal and kind of looking around and the bit of the snarl, there was just life in that character. There was life in it. I never got that out of Steppenwolf, unfortunately. Another super chat without a comment put in by Dylan Rauchi. Thank you so much, Dylan. I appreciate that very much. So, I mean, the trailer came out. It's bonkers good. Sets a brand new record, 230 million. People are losing their minds for it. The anticipation level for Avengers Infinity War going through the roof. I still don't, no, I'm not going to say I still know. I still do not believe that Avengers Infinity War has a chance of breaking the opening weekend box office record held by Star Wars The Force Awakens. Because, like, the last Avengers movie, Avengers Age of Ultron, which also had incredible buzz. That No Strings on Me trailer was crazy good. Everybody lost their minds for it. And opening weekend made a very respectable $198 million. I think that made it the 4th or 5th highest opening weekend in history. But I just don't know that you can go from 198 all the way up to 250. Which is basically what Infinity War would have to do to break Star Wars records, and I think that's unrealistic. So I don't think it's a fair thing to kind of put on them at this point. But anyway, that's just my thought. All right, let's move on here. And this is one, I know I already ranted on this a bit, so I'll keep this one short, I promise. But the aforementioned, this was a big story this week, the aforementioned article from The Wrap with their source from inside Warner Brothers, talking about the corruption, and I'll use the word corruption, going on at Warner Brothers and all that kind of stuff that's going on. And you know what? This is a perfect time. Another super chat just came in from Junkie, who wrote in, what can C do to fix its cinematic universe? I think you meant DC. What can DC do to fix its cinematic universe? And that ties right in with this particular topic that we have here. What can they do, Junkie, to fix that cinematic universe? Well, the first thing they need to do is totally clean house, because apparently they have a whole bunch of people who are in senior leadership at Warner Brothers that are undermining the good of their own cinematic universe just to make sure they get their bonuses, just to make sure they get extra money, just to make sure they line their pockets a little bit more. You see, according to the story, and again, this could be false. It could be fake. I'm just going off on this as if it were true. If it was true, then what you've got is you've got a CEO of Warner Brothers, and Kevin Tsujihara, who has basically had the opportunity to allow Justice League to be pushed into 2018 to give Joss Whedon more time and that whole creative team more time to do all the things in that film that they wanted done and to do them right. But according to the story, Kevin Tsujihara and one or two other executives decided that no, keep it in 2017 because then I'm guaranteed my bonus. And if it goes into 2018, I might not be in charge anymore. And therefore I won't get my bonus because AT&T is taking over Warner Brothers. I may not have this job then and I won't get any bonus. So they did that. So what they really need to do is clean house. Get rid of that infection of corruption that's there, where you have leadership that is willing to undermine their own movies just for the sake of personally gaining from it. So get rid of that and get in a team of leadership that can get in the same direction. Because again, from that story, we hear that the leadership at Warner Brothers was completely divided over which way this whole thing should go. There was no clear direction. There was no North Star. And you know, a lot of you fans, and me as well, and a lot of other people have been saying for a long time, DC needs a Kevin Feige. Not Kevin Feige himself, but they need a Kevin Feige. Somebody who can come in, be that North Star, has a lot of power to determine direction and everything, and so everybody can get in line and everybody can move in the same direction. Even if it's not a perfect direction, at least get everybody moving in the same direction. And that's important and that's vital. Okay, let's see here. What else? Somebody's saying I missed a super chat. They're saying the super chat came to me from, nobody's saying who it came from, but a super chat came in asking, if Aquaman is critically positive and highly successful at the box office, should WB still do some sort of reboot? Yes. Yes, they will. And you know what? If Justice League made $94 million and it's not a big hit, it's again kind of divisive with the audience and obviously with critics as well. I can't even imagine what Aquaman's going to do. I can't even imagine. So it is possible that Aquaman could come out and be a big success and all that kind of stuff, but I really doubt it. I really doubt it at this point. But even if it is, I think you still do. Too much damage has been done. The damage has been done. I mean, look, here's the thing. When you have the DCU in the state that it's in right now, maybe you are able to spit out one or two quality things, but again, that foundation is wrecked. And here's the important thing. What Justice League opening at $94 million tells us, then this is undisputable. The audience has abandoned the DCEU. When Batman vs. Superman opens to $166 million, and then Justice League opens at almost half of that, not quite half, but almost half of that at $94 million, sorry, that is a clear sign that the audience has abandoned the DCEU, and they're in the process of getting off shift. They're going overboard. They're wanting to get out of there. It's just the problem that, so even if Aquaman comes out at this point, and even if it's great, and I mean, I've got a lot of faith in the director. I like Jason Momoa very much. I thought Jason Momoa's Aquaman was one of the highlights of Justice League and all that kind of stuff. But even if that comes out and is a success, the damage has already been done to the DCEU. The audience is already abandoning ship. They're already abandoning the DCEU. And there's no foundation of quality. There's no foundation of success. Yeah, some of the movies made some money, but at what cost? They made money, but the critics were divided on them, and the audience was divided on them. And so we've seen more and more each opening weekend get lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Look, there's no other way to put that. The audience is abandoning the DCEU. If they weren't, it would have had a bigger opening weekend. It would have had a much bigger opening weekend. But it didn't. So yeah, this whole story about the Wrap, from the Wrap, about what's going on at Warner Brothers and how that whole thing came about was very disturbing for me. Very disappointing to me as somebody who has been a defender of Warner Brothers for the past year, as somebody who every week is going, guys, Warner Brothers filled with smart people. Just trust them. They're going to right this ship. Trust in it. Trust in it. How foolish was I? How foolish was I? That's really all I'm left to say and talk about. Okay, let's move on to the next topic here. And the next topic is all about one of the big issues that we always talk about is spoilers. Spoilers. Well, recently, Joe Manganiello, of course, he plays Deathstroke now. We all know this. He jumped on social media And he shared an image from the post-credit scene of Justice League publicly, as Justice League was just entering its second weekend, and spoiled to everybody the fact that this scene happens, the fact that he's in there, everybody. This thing that was supposed to be a big secret and a big surprise in the post-credit scene, here we are at the beginning of the second weekend and he reveals it. Now, if you saw me talk about this before, is it a spoiler what Joe Manganiello did? Absolutely it is. It's a spoiler. There's no two ways about it. That is a spoiler. However, some people saying, shouldn't he have checked in with Warner Brothers first? I absolutely guarantee you he got Warner Brothers' blessing. As a matter of fact, I have a feeling Warner Brothers probably asked him to release this because Justice League only opened to $94 million. And they're like, do whatever we can do to get more people to come see this movie. Start putting Superman in the marketing, something they should have done right from the beginning. There's no excuse that they didn't have Superman in their marketing right from the beginning. Anyway, so they go, oh, and now let's put Superman in the marketing. Completely directionless. Oh, release pictures of Joe as Deathstroke. Completely directionless. They've had no plan, no idea, no clue, so Joe released the picture. And you know what? It wasn't the wrong move. Because while it is a spoiler, and this is now where I'm going to shift gears and defend WB here for a second. While it is a spoiler, it's not important, and it's not vital to the plot and story of the movie itself. It's a little surprise at the end, and honestly, they are in a position where they're desperate to get more people out to see this movie. And if putting out this picture and showing Deathstroke's going to be in there and Joe's playing Deathstroke, if that can get a few more butts in the seats, then honestly, while it may taste bad in our mouths, giving away big spoilers like that, it probably was the right thing to do. It probably was the smart thing to do. So while this episode has been a lot of me crapping on WB, let me stand up for them in this case. I think this was probably the right decision and they did the right thing here. That's just my thought. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Going to the world of television, and I had a lot of fun talking about this earlier. Crisis on Earth X, the big CW crossover event that they do every single year, happened. It was a 4-episode special over 2 nights. And you know what? For any of you who have heard me talk about the CW shows and things like that for a while, you know I have not been super thrilled with where the CW shows are at right now. But I tell you guys, I really, really enjoyed this crossover. I thought it was a lot of fun. Look, when you're in trouble and you need some kind of big bad guy, Nazis. Nazis is the safest fallback bad guy you can go to. So that's what they did. They went with Nazis, and you know what? It worked. And having Oliver be the Fuhrer in that on Earth X, the head of the Nazis, and have him being married to Supergirl and all that kind of stuff, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was funny, but they also did a lot of character development. They had a major character die, which I said this on the John Campea show, but you'd think if they were going to have a major character die, they would let that character die on their own title show. But they had a major character die on the crossover. They had 2 significant events happen in Barry marrying Iris and Oliver and Felicity getting married. So they had major events, major character development, and a significant character dying. They did a lot, all while packaging it in this fun superheroes fighting super Nazis kind of a package. And you know what? I dug it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people going and writing to me on social media saying, John, do you think that DC should just reboot by putting the television stuff in the movies? No, because there are different standards for a CW show and a major motion picture. If they had put out Crisis on Earth X as it aired on TV in movie theaters, it would have been laughed out of the theater. But because we have different standards for that, right? But put it on CW and it's a big fun crossover event. It's fun and it's great and it's enjoyable. And I had a really good time. And right now, DC television is kicking DC movies' ass. I mean, when it comes to that, but I had a really good time with it. I had a lot of fun. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out yet, you absolutely should. Okay, I got a couple of super chats here I'm going to get to here really quickly. One comes from Earl. And I don't see a message in with Earl's super chat. If I can find that, I'll read it. But Earl put in a super chat. Also, super chat from Heath Majewiski, who wrote, "Greetings and salutations, John. I was just wondering what your metric for divided fans is. Are all the movies with cinema scores below A- divisive amongst fans and critics?" Yeah, pretty much. Anything under an A- is probably divisive. But, you know, when you're in a situation like me, and look, a lot of you guys spend a lot of time in chat boards and movie chat boards and things like this. You guys know, like when you read the chats and you get a feel for the temperature of what's going on in the world of fandom, you can hear the conversations going, not just amongst you and your friends, but when you're in the bigger chat boards and things like that, you see it, and I see it every day. I mean, like, I get like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tweets and emails and Facebook messages and all this kind of stuff every day, and you get a real quick sense of when the fandom is clearly divided on this. So many people tweeting to me, Justice League is garbage, Justice League is it, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people tweeting to me, Justice League was awesome, Justice League was fun, Justice League this. You get the same thing with like Suicide Squad. Some people saying, oh, Suicide Squad was great, it was refreshing, it was a different kind of take. And a lot of people writing to me, Suicide Squad was garbage, it was all this, it was all that. And hanging out in the forums that I hang out in and just the message I get from fans, you can tell when the fandom is pretty much divided. And like when you get a movie like Captain America Civil War, you can tell there's no division here. Yeah, there are a few people who don't like it because all film is subjective. But en masse, the vast majority of the people seem to really dig Civil War. The vast majority of the people really dig The Dark Knight. The vast majority of people really dig The Avengers. So you can tell when something's not divisive and you can tell when something's divisive. It's not just going by some metric score out there, but generally speaking, yeah, anything below an A- on Cinema Score, you'll probably find is pretty divided amongst the fans. That's just my thought. Another super chat just came in from Oburn, who wrote in, aside from making better movies, what strategy changes would Warner Brothers make with the DC reboot? Should WB wait some time between the DCEU and the reboot? Well, here's the interesting thing, Oburn, is that maybe one of the smart things that Warner Brothers has done here is they don't have another DC movie coming out for another year. Aquaman doesn't come out until the very end of 2018. So if you reboot right after Aquaman, and I'm not saying they are rebooting, I'm just saying if they decided to reboot, which I think would be the right thing to do at this point, that means you had an entire year for people to get over it. Then you come out with Aquaman, make a few minor changes to Aquaman to really make Aquaman a standalone movie, and then launch in with the reboot. The other strategy, it all goes into upper management. Get rid of the CEO at Warner Brothers, get rid of their senior people there, and then install a true Kevin Feige, head of the DC Cinematic Universe. Oh, and that's the other thing. Stop calling it the DCEU, okay? Just call it the DCU, okay? Or the DCCU, the DC Cinematic Universe. Get that expanded nonsense out of there. It's a stupid title. So that's what I would do. They got to start with, they're going to have a year between now and Aquaman, which is smart. And then they got to get rid of the senior leadership there and then install a true Kevin Feige character. That's the way I think they need to approach it at any rate. All right. Another super chat just came in from Mark Hansen. And Mark Hansen wrote in on the super chat, do you think maybe a positive is this will curtail studios throwing ridiculous amounts of money at these films? 300 is nuts. Well, remember, Mark, that Warner Brothers did not start off with trying to put in, they didn't start off trying to make Justice League a $300 million movie. That's not what they started with. What happened was that price tag escalated when they realized, when they had their internal struggles and decided the way Justice League was going was not working. And they needed to redo it and reshoot a whole bunch of stuff and let Joss Whedon do a bunch of stuff. That added to the price tag. So, but I'm with you. Like, you know, I've been saying for a long time, studios, especially comic book movies, need to start reeling in how much money they spend on these movies. Because the more and more studios spend on movies, the more and more your ticket prices go up at the movie theaters. I've gone into detail before about how the cost of making a movie is directly connected to the cost you pay for a movie ticket. So the industry as a whole needs these studios to start spending a little bit less. But in the situation like this one, with Justice League, there is a big asterisk there. Justice League budget wasn't $300 million. They had a budget. The movie didn't work out the way they wanted it to work. They did a whole bunch of reshoots and spent way more money on the reshoots than they thought they were going to have to at first. And that's kind of it. So let's give Warner Brothers a little bit of a pass on that one for now, at any rate. All right. This next super chat comes in from the incredible Kyle, who writes, hey, John, if Superman was in the marketing for Justice League, how much more do you think the film would have made opening weekend? You know, it's a very good question because, you know, I yell and scream that Superman is the most popular superhero character in history. He's in this movie. He plays a major role in this movie. How do you not have him in the marketing? And don't say, oh, because we don't want to give away that he comes back to life. Everybody already knows. Henry Cavill's tweeting out pictures from the set. Everybody knows he's coming back. So put him in the damn marketing. But, so I'll yell and scream about that. How much difference would it really have made? It's not like it would have made the $94 million opening weekend $140 million opening weekend. It's not like that would have happened at all. But considering how much more hopeful Superman is in this particular movie over the other ones, and that's what a lot of people wanted to see, considering how great Superman is in this movie, has some great one-liners and things like that as well, it would have helped. I think at the very minimum, having Superman featured in this, and and I screamed this, like there's a shot in the movie with Batman and with Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne standing side by side talking together like, oh my God, it's Batman and Superman together on the screen. The last time they were together on the screen, your movie made $166 million in opening weekend. Put that in the marketing. They didn't, of course. I don't think it would have made a night and day difference, but I do think it would have made the difference between a $94 million opening and cracking a $100 million opening weekend. And at least that would have been a little bit of a moral victory in some degree. So let's not pretend that putting Superman in the marketing would have changed the entire narrative, but it would have helped. It would have helped at least a little bit. Thanks a lot for that tweet in there. All right. Let's, another super chat from Vernon Lee without a comment. Thank you so much, Vernon Lee. I appreciate you putting that in there. All right. Let's move on now to the final topic of the day, and then I'm going to go to the Twitter board and start taking your guys' tweets. And the final topic today just came in about an hour and a half ago, maybe 2 hours ago. As many of you know, there's a brand new Titan show coming on for Warner Brothers on streaming, and they released their first official picture of Robin. And we got our first picture of Robin, and you know what? Damn, don't he look good? Doesn't he look great? I think the costume is bang on. I think that looks all kinds of fabulous. I think that outfit just looks great. I think the costume's fantastic. So full marks to them. Now, this doesn't mean the show's going to be any good. The show could be a total bag of crap. Oh, just because they did a good job designing, like the costume designer did a good job. That does not mean that we're going to end up, that doesn't mean the show's going to be good. But hey, we're talking about the costume. Costume looks damn good to me. Now, of course, we're also, pretty soon, we're going to be getting our first images of Ryan Potter as Beast Boy, Anna Doyip as Starfire, Minka Kelly as Dove, Alan Ritchson as Hawk, and a few others. So we're going to get more images probably in the coming weeks of these characters as well. But I think this was a great one to lead off with. I think he just looks killer, looks really good. And I have not been interested in this show. I'll be honest with you. Not been interested in the show. But I see how much they nail that costume design, and even I gotta go, okay, I'll give this a shot. I'll give this a shot and see what this is all about. Okay, guys, listen, I am now going to get to that part of the show here where I take your guys' live questions. There's like over 1,600 of you guys in the live watching right now. I'm going to start taking some of your live questions. Tweet them into me simply at John Campea. But first, of course, I need to do my obligatory little... whatchamacallit. I call it my obligatory, plug. My obligatory plug for my Patreon page. Now, of course, you guys know I no longer work for any corporations. I don't get a paycheck from anybody. This takes up my full time to do these videos. And the only way I've been able to do these videos full time is by the generosity and the support of my Patreon supporters. So listen, do me a favor. If you guys watch my videos and enjoy my videos or spend any time a month watching my videos and hanging out with me here, head on over to www.patreon.com/JohnCampea. Take a look around the page. There you'll get all types of information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter actually makes these shows possible, and even more importantly, what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter, which includes getting audio-only podcasts of The John Campea Show, of Star Wars Talk Tuesday, and of course, The Weekly Hero. I make those available to my Patreon supporters, an exclusive Facebook group, all that kind of stuff. Just go on over to patreon.com/JohnCampea. Check it out and see if you want to be a Patreon supporter. And if you do, that's awesome. And if you don't, that's totally fine. I'm just glad you're here being a film fan with us, talking about some really cool, fun stuff. All right. with all that out of the way, it's time for me to go over to the tweets. And let's see, the first tweet today comes to us from rdrago66, who writes, John, what things do you want/not want to happen in The Incredibles 2? Honestly, I'm approaching it with no expectations. None. I'm not going into Incredibles 2 with a laundry list of things they better do and things they better not do. Now, granted, a few months ago, I was like, I would like The Incredibles to pick up 10 years later. I'd like to see these kids in young adulthood now. I'd like to see Jack as a teenager or something like that. But they're not doing that. They're picking up more early. Totally fine, not a problem. Other than that, I honestly have no expectations. No laundry list for me about what they should or should not do. Okay, let's go on to the next one. This one comes to us from Bob Linton, 1995, writes, John, Hellboy gets a release date of January 11th, 2019. Really? I hadn't heard that. I'm disappointed. I think January is a great release date. I would have rather heard January 2018. Obviously, that's not possible. That feels so far away. That feels so far away. I was hoping it would be in 2018 sometime. But hey, it's only a year and a bit away, so that's fine too. Okay, let's go to this next one. This next one comes to us from Henry Yell 8, who writes, John, why haven't any of the X-Men movies hit $1 billion yet? Most of them are great. Is it because of not enough or good marketing by Fox? Hey, that's a great question. I think, look, when the X-Men first came out, with X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, films weren't hitting the $1 billion mark at that point. It was incredibly rare, right? And then you had a couple of stinkers. You had X-Men 3, you had X-Men Origins Wolverine, so that tempers it a bit. And then you get like X-Men First Class, which I think a lot of people didn't know what to make of that movie. So not a lot of people checked it out, but those who did check it out loved it. The X-Men Days of Future Past comes out and it's amazing, and it did very well at the box office, but, you know, not in the upper echelon of like Avengers or what Justice League should have been, obviously. Then we get Logan, which is R-rated, so that's why it didn't crack like $800 million, which is fine. Deadpool, which again is R-rated, which is why it's not going to hit $1 billion club, things like that. So, look, they've been doing great. Fox keeps their budgets reasonable. They make big money at the box office, reap in the profits, and they try different things. So they did this R-rated Western with Logan. They did this R-rated comedy with Deadpool. Now they're doing this R-rated indie horror movie with New Mutants. They're just... What I love about Fox right now, which is one of the reasons I don't want them to go to Disney right now, but one of the things I love about Fox right now is that they're taking these really cool risks with their X-Men universe and trying things that a lot of people wouldn't try. And they're trying them. And they're having some success. But I think those are some of the reasons why we're not seeing them hit like the $1 billion mark. All right, let's check this one out. This one comes from Sith Latachi, who writes, John, I can't believe Australia is finally is getting Infinity War a week before you guys. What do you think? Hey, it's not unusual. Marvel... it's not unusual for Marvel to release some of their films internationally first, especially when they believe in their films and they have a lot of trust in their films because they know it's going to get big word of mouth and big positive buzz that'll come back to the US. Then it opens in the US to an even bigger box office and yada, yada, yada. So that's probably one of the reasons they do that. Let's go to this one. This one, actually, it's another super tweet that just came in. This super tweet comes in from Rowdy Rod. If that's a little nod of the hat to Rowdy Piper, the rowdy one, then respect to you, sir. I miss Rowdy Piper. Roddy Rod writes, so is Ant-Man and the Wasp going to outgross Justice League? I don't think so. I don't really see how that's possible, but Ant-Man and the Wasp doesn't need to. Ant-Man and the Wasp is not Justice League. Justice League, I still believe, can hit that $700 million mark. I believe, despite all the chaos, that Justice League can still break even at $700 million. I believe that can happen. I don't know that Ant-Man and the Wasp will get to $700 million. It doesn't, and it doesn't need to. It just needs to be good. It just needs to be good. As long as it crosses like the $575, $625 million mark, it's going to be profitable because the budgets are going to be reasonable. They'll be fine. But I don't think we're going to see Ant-Man. Well, let's put it this way. It is a sad state of affairs if Ant-Man and the Wasp ends up making more money than Justice League. It would be a truly dark day for DC if that was the case. I don't think anybody out there is going to disagree, right? Like, none of you guys watching live, none of you guys disagree with that, right? Like, if, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if Ant-Man and the Wasp made more money than Justice League, there's no way to spin that, right? I mean, that's just terrible. That is a dark day for DC if that actually happens. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, it would be a terribly tragic thing for DC. All right, let's try this next one on Twitter. And this next tweet comes to us from R. Drago again, who writes, which newly introduced superhero character from 2017 was your favorite? For me, it's a tie between X-23 and Korg, two very different characters, but I'm going to go X-23. She was spectacular. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think you could make an argument that she could get a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Because every once in a while, the Academy likes nominating a child actor. And if you're going to do that, that performance could certainly qualify. And look, it's unlikely because there are some spectacular Best Supporting Actress performances this year. But don't fall out of your seat backwards and die of shock if we actually end up hearing that she got a Best Supporting Actress nomination. That wouldn't be so bad. Let's see. This next one. Nathan Vander writes, John, Iron Man or Spider-Man Homecoming? Like the original Iron Man? Spider-Man Homecoming. Look, I know a lot of people really revere that first Iron Man, and I like the first Iron Man, I do. I think Spider-Man Homecoming was better than it, though, to be really honest with you. Let's see. Where did it go? Okay, here we go. This next one comes to us from Political Nick, who writes, John, what happens to the successful properties if DC reboots and the great actors? Seems a waste to reboot Wonder Woman. Yeah, but again, what's your option? What's your option? Like, you either reboot or you don't. And and I made this illustration earlier today, but it's like you've got a car and it's a total death trap. Half the time it doesn't start. The brakes are squeaky or are going to fail anytime now. It feels like the radiator is going to blow up anytime. Your transmission's shot and you're just going to die in this car. What are you going to do? But let's keep the car because I love the steering wheel. The steering wheel's really good. Let's keep the car. I mean, is it a shame? Look, whenever you reboot something, look, when they rebooted The Amazing Spider-Man, it was a shame that they had to get rid of Andrew Garfield. But you had to reboot. And if you're going to reboot, that means you get in new actors. I thought Andrew Garfield was great as Peter Parker. I loved Andrew Garfield in it. But if you're going to reboot, you got to reboot. Now, you also, I said this earlier today on the John Campea Show as well, you can't just dismiss Wonder Woman. Because Wonder Woman is the one true success that the DCU's had, both critically, audience, and box office. So if you can find a way to come up with an excuse to keep that Wonder Woman in your DCU, great. If not, just get a better actress, and there's lots of better actresses than Gal Gadot out there. Just get a better actress, replace her, and restart it again, and you'll be fine. Look, Batman has rebooted to tremendous success. Hulk has rebooted to tremendous success. Spider-Man has rebooted twice to tremendous success. No reason the DCEU can't do the same thing. No reason they can't do the same thing. A super chat just came in from Nathan asking me, what are my thoughts on the Hangover trilogy? Nathan, I really appreciate the super chat, but this is Hero Weekly. This is the Weekly Hero. I'm not here to talk about the Hangover, but thank you for the super chat nonetheless. Let's see. Let's go. This one. Easy Boy 6 writes, John, was Justice League effective by JW infidelity rumor? Who's JW? Oh, Joss Whedon infidelity rumor and Ben sexual harassment rumor. I really don't think so. I don't think it was affected at all because, you know, none of it was like on the Harvey Weinstein or Kevin Spacey level where people are saying they assaulted other people. It was never got to that, and it never, those news stories didn't really seem to have legs beyond the first couple of days that those stories came out. Nor were they as serious as like some of the bigger, more serious ones in the news. I'm trying to downplay, but hey, Joss Whedon cheated on his wife. That's none of our business. That's none of our business. That's an intermarriage issue. That he didn't break any laws. He didn't assault anybody. That's between him and his wife. I mean, it's none of my business. It's none of your business. I don't care. I do think that, but when that happened with Joss Whedon, I said, I have a feeling this will make Warner Brothers pull Joss Whedon off of Batgirl and put him on something else. And it looks like it's going to be Harry Potter. So you're not going to see Joss Whedon doing Batgirl now, probably because of that. But honestly, I really don't think either of those stories had much of an effect on anything, to be honest. Let's go over again. Another super chat's come in. This one from Koba, who's writing, I'm going to get in trouble for this, who's writing, Reeve or Cavill? I'm going to go Cavill. I'm going to go Cavill. That's no disrespect at all to the great Christopher Reeve. He's the one who convinced us that a man could fly. I mean, no disrespect to Christopher Reeve at all, and his place amongst the gods is forever secure. But I just like the portrayal of Superman that Cavill gave us a bit better. And here's the thing, Cavill's Superman was a much more accurate Superman for today. And Christopher Reeve's was a much more, you know, golly ma'am, let me get your kitten out of your tree. That was better for its time. And Henry Cavill's Superman may not have worked as much in that era. Christopher Reeve's Superman would not have worked in this era. And so with all that, I'm going to go Henry Cavill. I really love Henry Cavill's Superman. To me, it was just dynamic and awesome in every way, shape, and form. I just loved it. Okay, only got time for a couple more tweets and we got to call it a day today, guys. This next one comes to us from, if I can get this thing to come up, from I Sip That Tea, who writes, John, what if Nebula dies in Avengers Infinity Wars? How impactful would her death be? It wouldn't be very impactful at all. She's not a major character. She hasn't had a ton of screen time. And I know they tried to make her more sympathetic in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but I didn't think they did a good job of it. So if Nebula dies in Infinity War, honestly, I don't see that as a big deal. And I don't think it would have that much impact whatsoever, to be honest with you. All right, let's go to the last tweet question today. And that one comes to us from Songbird Diamond, who writes, they're going to cram the X-Men in there, but my God, don't use the out-of-control Fox continuity. I got a feeling that was part of a conversation about what happens if Disney does indeed buy out the Fox movie properties. If Disney does buy out the Fox movie properties, they get control of the X-Men. And honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about that. No, I do know how I feel about it. I don't like that. I like different studios having different properties. I love what Fox has been doing through X-Men universe. Yes, they've had a couple of stinkers, no doubt about it. But for the most part, they have done a great job. Deadpool, Logan, First Class, Days of Future Past, X-Men 1, X-Men 2. They've put out so many great films that, man, I really want to see it stay where it is. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment, this week's installment of The Weekly Hero, recapping all the stuff from the week of superhero news. I'm so glad you guys came along for the ride with me. This has been a lot of fun. Special thank you to all you guys who put in super chats. That has been very appreciated, of course. And a special thank you to all you guys who are my Patreon supporters. So listen, guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Leave your thought, leave your comments below. Remember, guys, we're all film fans. And it's fun to have passionate differences of opinion. So let's have passionate differences of opinion. But let's remember, we're all on the same team at the end of the day. We're all film fans together. Let's at least treat each other with a little bit of respect as we're doing it. As always, guys, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. We just passed the 100,000 subscriber mark. Thank you to all you guys who are already subscribers. And make sure you follow me on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, simply @JohnCampea. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.